Hello, hi everyone. Welcome to Physics 58 meeting. Today's the first Wednesday of the month, which is the 7th of November. I want to say namaste, as Captain Randy Cramer would say namaskar. This is an Indian greeting, right? Namaskar. Is it like that?
Right. The difference is that namaste is something that you say to your God, and namaskar is something you say to another person. So they really
Right.
mean the same thing, which is the light in me recognizes the light in you, but it's really it's a tense of who you're addressing. So it's okay. Everyone says namaste. That's fine. They just don't realize it's grammatically incorrect, but that's okay.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for making that clear and the difference there. That's beautiful. All right, I'm going to share screen now. I just say welcome to everyone. Welcome to Physics 58 meeting. And this is Physics webpage. If you go to truevisionofpeace.com/physics.html, you see what we are about. We are a free energy special interest group where scientists, developers, and innovators and enthusiasts of free energy, alternative energy meet on a platform where science meets spirituality, because we like to urge them to remember who they truly are first, touch the heart, and go into the spirit in order to succeed what they have come here to do. So this platform actually is free for all to express, to share their knowledge so that we can go further with what we want to do here. And not only that, I mean, some of the researchers and scientists have shared their blueprints freely here, and it's open source, and it's wonderful. And we have Patrick Kelly here with us as well, and he has, he has written this 3,000 over pages in his ebook, compiling all the free energy, alternative energy technologies that is being sent to him, or he just searched them from the internet, and it's been very popular. And everyone who's very interested in free energy actually refers to his book. It's like a textbook. And I'm just scrolling through to find where that one is being put. Okay, sorry. It's somewhere in the web page. You find it. Oh, there you are, Patrick Kelly. Okay, so if you click on this links, you'll find it. And today we have, if you go to the website, you see our speaker, Captain Randy Cramer, and all that he does. And it's like more of a bio here, so you can find everything here. And he's got, I put links to his name. So this is one link, and that's another link, and this is the subject that he's going to talk about, the futuristic HR medbed, that has a link to his interviews and his explanation about what he's going to do with them, and so on and so forth. And we also have link on Ileana, the star traveler, as well, because she has described this holographic medbed in detail in the 48th physics meeting when we had her talking here in physics. And then we had this Reverend Dennis Shipman also writing a big, wonderful illustrative article adopting Ileana's illustrations on the holographic medbeds, which is really fascinating. But here we have the man who's going to make it happen, who's going to actually manifest it. So it's very, very exciting, folks. And I hope that you will really go into our Physig YouTube channel if you missed this meeting, and look through all the recordings that we had, and some of those are so relevant to your interests. So you will find it. It's, as you scroll down the physics page, you will see all the speakers who had spoken in physics, and some of the most brilliant, amazing people on the planet. And then you will see also, if as you scroll down, the video links with physics meeting video links. So you click on them and just help yourself, and it's all for free. This is a service for you to, get up to date with what's happening on the free energy front. So there you are. And this is the 48th physics meeting with Ileana, the star traveler, where she had done a lot of work on the research of the holographic medbeds. So this is physics side, and I'm going to take that away, and I'm going to say, I'm going to show you my PowerPoint presentation. Welcome again, physics. This is physics logo. Today, 7th of November, I'm the chair, Crystal Gore, the initiator and founder of physics. And the co-chair today is Dr. Elizabeth Donovan for the first session when the Captain Randy is talking. And the second co-chair for the second session is James Rink. Hopefully he will be here on time because he's not here in the first session because he has to be doing a presentation right now elsewhere. And here we have a few other pages slides. Now I won't go into details. I just wanted to go through the agenda with you. So it's a quick presentation physics which I did to new members. We had gone round the table introducing each other to get to know each other prior to the starting of the meeting, and we have our speaker from the Secret Space Program, Captain Randy Cramer, USMCss official. Oh, sorry, he just corrected me. That's not right. Okay, so I'm going to take that away because that was lifted from another site. That was a mistake. It speaks about the SSP electromagnetic propulsion systems and the futuristic HR medbeds, as it is his mission to bring the Elysium type of technology for healing humanity. And then we have item number 5, Q&A forum session, which is open to the physics executive members and the regulars that attend the meetings to participate in the Q&A session with Randy and share their thoughts and insights on free energy. So it's like a forum, it's like a friendly discussion and talk, a conversation, okay, on healing and ascension as well. And then after having done that, we go around the table as usual. So everybody has a chance to ask questions or to speak or, have something to say. They have their say then. And then lastly, after we've done all that, we adjourn to the next meeting, which will be the 59th physics meeting on the 5th of December, 2018. Speakers is to be confirmed. All right. So, and if you want to contact me, Crystal Gore, and the physics team, write to crystal@truevisionofpeace.com. Right. So this is it. Oh, sorry. Oh. Now I've lost you for a moment. Stop sharing. Okay. Right. So now I'm going to introduce Captain Randy Cramer's bio. He has 20 years of experience. Most knowledgeable USMC, United States Marine Corps. SS is a special service officers, special section officers. Apart from the disclosing of some of the most advanced technologies, Captain Randy will speak about the SSP electromagnetic propulsion systems and the futuristic holographic regeneration medbeds, as it is his mission to bring the Elysium movie type of technology for healing humanity. Quoting him, he said, "We should all share in the benefits of the progress of the true mastery we have over the laws of physics, energy generation, propulsion, and telecommunications from the Secret Space Program." Hooray. "We should all have a future," he said, "we can look forward to, and not just a pretty one for some, but for all the people of this living and conscious planet." Thank you. We applaud you on that, Randy. So without much ado, Randy, would you come forward and take up the microphone? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for having me. Yeah, we certainly think that we have spent enough time and enough money and enough energy over the last, what's it been now, 7.5 decades, developing these technologies that most people who live in most countries pay taxes, which are going to fund some of these projects. And we certainly know that the legal umbrellas of where these projects are being created and how they're being used. It is, in our opinion, a crime to deny these technologies to the rest of the citizenry behind walls of secrecy because of convenience or profit or exclusion, which some people like to do. But the truth is, the entire planet and the entire species is in great need of all of these technologies. We are pushing our environmental and social political boundaries to the limit, and we need to be able to have these technologies to take some of the pressure off, and in order to stabilize civilization, excuse me, those of us who understand that civilization is not something that just continues regardless of whether we do anything or not. Civilization is something that is either constantly being built up or is something that is constantly being eroded. And we are certainly in a phase where our civilization, as we know it down here as surface dwellers, is being eroded. And we need to be able to restore that civilization. And to restore that civilization, we have to restore the structure of the bottom. And the structure of the bottom is restored by dealing with things like energy costs and healthcare costs and access to information and technology, which saves the entire burden of civilization, billions and trillions of dollars a year, so that the benefit gets spread around to everybody. Because we don't think that it's morally, ethically, or legally correct to have nothing short of miraculous technological advancements that we then just deny access to, so that we can continue burning fossil fuels and having invasive procedures, drug therapies that don't work or that have more side effects than they do positive effects. So yeah, we think it's absolutely essential that one step at a time we bring these technologies forward. So my chief engineer, who's a fabulous man, who's an ex-NASA guy, and I have certainly spent quite a bit of time discussing on paper how to take these technologies and bring them to the civilian world. And mostly those conversations are component conversations between a couple of tech heads, where we discuss the specifics of the technologies that we know have to be built and the specifics of how we understand. Oh, excuse me. We're having a change of weather here. I have a runny nose. It's getting cold. Thank you. So we understand that we have to take these components and understand where we are sort of as a technological level in the civilian world. So, because a lot of these technologies are technologies which you build upon things that we already have now. So that the technological advancements for certain things, because we're talking about a holographic regenerating, cellular regenerating medical bed, holographic projector technology is involved here. So if we went back 30 years before we had the advancement of this holographic technology in the civilian world, we would have a really, really long hill to climb, because we would have to be developing all of that technology first. But luckily, since the civilian world has been developing holographic technology for some years now, we don't have to start at square one. We basically get to start with the technology that we have, and then take some engineers and turn it into the technology that we need it to be, which is basically about precision, having tools that do things to a certain level of precision that they don't do right now, in order to get them to be able to do what the technology itself does, which is essentially physics in the terms of harmonic frequency resonance. So dominant harmonic frequency resonance is the notion that if you have a dominant wave, or a dominant frequency, it will change the waveform of a different frequency. And so you're essentially using a holographic projection of cellular tissue, which is at a frequency that dominates the frequency of the damaged tissue, so that the tissue that is damaged wants to conform to the dominant harmonic frequency resonance. Now, I do discuss this in some generality, and I have done so before, and I will just point out to anybody who thinks that they can take what I'm saying and turn it into a operable prototype. No, you can't. There are a few details which my engineer and I will not certainly discuss publicly about components and about operation and about safety issues. So there's more information that I know about that's proprietary that we simply won't discuss openly or publicly because we're not going to have our idea stolen by anybody. But suffice it to say that the main principles are actually fairly simple and fairly straightforward. The fine-tuning is a bit more complicated, which is why it's going to take us some time to develop a real good prototype. But the principles are fairly straightforward. So you could take someone who has a third-degree burn on their arm and project a holographic image of the cellular tissue of that arm based on their genetic profile. And the cellular tissue in the arm would want to conform to the dominant harmonic frequency resonance of the projection, and which causes the cellular tissue to restore itself. Now, the devices that we had were very advanced in the sense that they were much quicker and much faster than the technology that we'll develop at first, but we don't think that really matters too much. If the difference between, say, when I was in the MDF, which is the Mars Defense Force, and had, lost my arm or something from the elbow down, that could be restored in about, depending on the damage, 4 to 6 hours, which is really an incredibly fast amount of time. We don't expect that the device that we will be able to create do it that quickly, but we don't care, because if it takes someone, say, 4 or 5 sessions per week for 3 or 4 weeks, at 2 or 3 hours a session, which is many more hours to do that, but still doesn't really matter because you're still able to restore a destroyed limb, a limb that's just not there, which is medical technology that we don't have in the civilian world. And so we think it doesn't really matter that it takes longer. You're still going to have a device that can restore damaged limbs, that can take, in particular, we like to think of number of veterans that we know that have lost arms and legs, and we think it's a priority, since people like me, as veterans using this technology in military theaters that had my arms and legs blown off a lot of times and I got them put back on, I feel horrible anytime I see a guy from Iraq or Afghanistan who has an arm or a leg or multiple arms or legs missing and does not have access to this technology to grow his limbs back because of walls of secrecy or exclusion or whatever. I think that's criminal. So those are one of the first groups of people that we want to help as far as restoring damaged limbs. And being able to restore a damaged limb is nothing short of miraculous. So we think that once we can demonstrate that with a workable prototype, that it's not going to be big in the world to bring it to people at that point. Once you can demonstrate it and people can see it, they'll demand it. They will demand and demand and demand until that technology has access to the known medical system that we have right now for people to get treatment in. So we think that it's something that we can insert into the medical system as we understand it, that it's something that is a less expensive treatment and a less expensive therapy that can be provided for pennies on the dollar compared to what invasive procedures and very expensive prosthetic limbs and invasive procedures, and in some cases, again, drug therapies that don't work very well, that this technology is very marketable in the sense that it's pennies on the dollar compared to many other treatments and can do more. And so I have had this discussion recently with people who say, yeah, but you've got, people who are going to fight you for it. And, like the American Medical Association, like, yeah, but the people who are really going to end up making the decisions to make this go forward are going to be hospital administrators and hospital boards, because those are the people we're going to go to. And essentially we can bring a business plan to those people that says, here's how your hospital or your clinic will do better as far as being a profit and loss medical industry machine in order to provide both better treatments, better services at a cheaper rate, which then means that hospital administrators and hospital boards get to make more profits, which is how we think that most of these things are going to be implemented into the civilian world, is not by taking a technology that comes in and shatters current technology or current marketplace systems with something so advanced and so miraculous that, you break somebody's economy with it. We think that by inserting these technologies into the current economies, into the current market-based systems, is how you fix them. Most of these market-based systems are broken in the sense that, they're overburdened, they're not providing great service, and their cost overruns are ridiculous. So we think that inserting these technologies into sensible business plans, into sensible areas of the marketplace, is how we're going to get them to happen and how we're going to get things to change. Throughout history, major changes have come when somebody developed a piece of technology and was able to implement it into the market system and get people to accept that technology as something acceptable and preferable because it built something better, stronger, more durable, or had a cost that was less. So we think that we can do the same thing with these technologies. We don't think that they have to be expensive. We don't think that they have to be outrageous. We don't think that they also have to be so inexpensive that they're going to break current models or market models. We think that we're more than capable of inserting these into market-based systems that we have now and showing the people who are managing those systems how their profits will go up, and the dollar cost per person will go down. So as far as access to the average citizen for this technology, once it's really out there, will be far less expensive. Anything that they're having to go through now, as far as more complicated and more expensive procedures, or again, drug therapies that don't work sometimes. So eventually, we're able to see this as something that is cost effective at the ground level, so the patient cost is less than anything else that they're paying for at the moment. So that will make the cost for the healthcare treatments lower. And we think that by showing the hospitals a way that they will make good profits, will make everybody happy. So, and again, once you demonstrate that it works, people will start to demand it. And so while there is a certain opposition, we don't think it's going to matter once we have a provable, demonstrable prototype that functions, and we communicate directly to hospital administrators and boards about how they're going to do better and how their reputation as hospitals will go up, and how it will help them and their business model in general. So we think it's very doable to do it that way. And we think that once we solve the component problems and get engineers working on it, that we will be able to have a functional prototype in 5 years, maybe less. And then depending on the breaks, once we have a functional prototype, to work on the protocols for scalable devices, could be 10 years, but those are estimates on paper that we can't really say more about until I have engineers who are working on component problems. When I have engineers who are working on component problems for a year, then we can have a much better guesstimate on how long it's going to take till prototype and functional business model. But we don't think that it matters that it's going to take a few years, because that's still probably going to be a lot faster than this technology will reach us from the other side of the secrecy barrier, which can take decades longer than it will take for us to develop them, do the research development in a laboratory on our own. That's the gist of it. Any specific questions you would like to ask?
That was so amazing. I mean, this is music to our ears, Captain Randy, because Physics, the group here, has been asking for the release of the healing medical pods and this futuristic holographic med beds to the people from the SSP. For a long time now. We've been seeking and we've been looking and we've been asking questions, and here you are. You're actually really doing this. I just wanted to say, before I go any further, I think Penny will have to run leave the meeting. So I leave it to you, Penny. If you have anything that you want to ask Captain Randy, do it now before you disappear for your dental appointment. Go on then, Penny.
Wow. His branch used a different technology than my branch did. Mine was on lease from the Mantid Empire. From my experience, the Mantids out there are the best healers there are. So it's a very different approach than what I was used to. So I was sitting here listening like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So Ileana has done a lot of research into explaining what she remembered from
this one.
From the corporate,
this one. Yeah.
from the planetary corporations, and she used that in her service as well. So I'm thinking that the Germans just were different and made everybody else make up their own. But I've been hearing about these for a while, and I knew Captain Cramer was working on it, but I hadn't heard how far he'd gotten as far as practicals. So I would be interested in knowing if you've got the research and development team in position yet.
Captain Randy, is this more or less the same as this illustration that Ileana has put forth on her?
Those are illustrations, if I'm correct, that are from major media productions. So they're from sci-fi movies, which is completely fine as far as I'm concerned to use that as a model to try and show people what you're talking about. The actual device looks a little different than that and can have some variation as well. But gets the idea across. So yeah, some of these are also like robotic surgery units, which are pretty impressive, but isn't exactly the same technology that we're talking about. And there are a number of different technologies that are used in the field, so I'm not surprised if Penny and the Nachtwaffen used something different. I know that we were purchasing the holographic medical beds that we got from an intergalactic source. We were purchasing them from a species that makes these really, really advanced holographic regenerating medical beds. So I'm not sure what the state of our constructing them on our own is. We might be able to have a trade agreement right now that gets us to import them from someone who can make them cheaper. But I'm not sure who was making them. I'd have to ask some questions and find out where we were getting them from.
Right. So Penny was saying that you have to, as regards to rejuvenation, everything has to be healed first, all those damaged areas of the body before you do the rejuvenation. So are you talking about rejuvenation as well, Captain Randy? With your prototype?
The way the holographic regenerating medical bed works, or holographic cellular regenerator, it doesn't have to be a bed. Like I said, it's a scalable technology, so you can have something the size of a bread box that can heal a hand or a foot, or something that's not bigger than a portable, like, dental x-ray unit that can heal damaged tissue in isolated areas along the body. The bed system is really only necessary for really bad damage in large portions of the body or all over the body. But it's essentially is working on, again, telling the tissue itself to restore itself. So it has a way of overriding the body's sense of limitation on what it can restore by telling the body, no, you can restore this to 100%. And then the cells within the body just continue to restore and rejuvenate those cells and restoring the damaged tissue at the same time. So it does everything at the same time. You can be rejuvenating and healing tissue in the arm or in your liver or in your lungs while still rebuilding damaged tissue on a damaged limb or an arm or a leg or third-degree burns or something like that. So it works on everything all at once, to answer that question.
Wow. It's so amazing.
Okay, I have a question. Are you familiar with Bearden's provisional patent?
On the MEG?
No, Bearden's provisional patent of 2001.
What was that for? I thought that was the MEG patent that he had on the motionless electromagnetic generator.
Oh, you don't know about that one. Okay, let me do a share screen.
Then please tell me. Yeah, I don't think I know about that one. I know we got the MEG patent about that time, but I don't know what else you're talking about. Please share.
Okay, let's see if this will work.
I love Tom Bearden. He's one of my heroes.
Okay. Do you see this one?
I can see it, but I can't really read it because I'm having to use my phone at the moment. My laptop wasn't
It's a method, system, and apparatus for conditioning electromagnetic potentials.
Liza, could you zoom in?
Oh, I can zoom in. Look at that.
No, Eliza.
Yeah, okay. No, it won't zoom in.
Mm-hmm.
But this is off of the
I can zoom in with my fingers and make it bigger, so okay.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
So this one is talking about exactly what you're talking about. And it's using phase conjugation to restore a biological system to its previous state.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Looks like that is, huh? Interesting.
Yes. And I know people who've done experiments with this, and it does work.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Oh, no, that might be something I'll have to talk to him about. Very cool. Okay.
Yeah. And
no, I had not seen that before. Very cool.
Oh, yeah. And in this thing, I mean, there's like 20 different illustrations. One of the last illustrations is something that looks like a holographic bed or a pod. And I mean, this is back in 2001.
Wow. Oh, look how that slipped under the radar. Yeah, I hadn't even heard. No, I'm familiar with Dr. Bearden's work too, and that's the first time I've ever heard of this.
Yeah, it's exactly what you're talking about. Now, an interesting thing about this is that there was someone else that I know that is doing a paper right now. I probably shouldn't mention his name, but it's on using quantum potentials to entangle to a previous version of itself. You know.
Oh, okay.
Right, and this is used. It's using phase conjugation for healing, because what you're doing is you're taking the pattern of the uninjured tissue from the past state and then overlaying that over the present injured state.
Right. That's exactly what we're talking about, yeah.
Here it is, right here.
Exactly, yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So is the phase conjugation method, is that going to work with the dominant harmonic frequency technology that Captain Randy's coming up with?
That's actually not necessary with this one. What you're doing is you're quantum entangling it with its past self that before it was damaged, and all those patterns.
Yeah, as it's been explained to me, really the way it's been explained to me, the most advanced methods that we have for healing the physical body come from waveform technologies. So rather than using surgeries or drugs or, artificial limbs or organs, the different methodologies which use wavelengths of some type or quantum entanglement or a list of things that are possible really are the best tools. And there isn't just one way. So what you're describing is a different waveform technology that's essentially doing the same thing, but with a slightly different methodology. So yeah, it would not surprise me, just given what I know, that there, is half a dozen or so methods which essentially do sort of the same thing, taking a different road to get there. And I think when it comes right down to it, as we develop these technologies, they will have an opportunity to compete fairly in the marketplace based on what you can do for manufacturing and what you can do for access. And as well as, I think it's important, we have no desire, to have this global monopoly, on healing technology or on this technology at all. That's not our desire. That would just make us the middleman for that same kind of exclusivity that we have the problem now. So we're more than happy to work on a technology, have someone else be working on a technology. We're more than happy, to have half a dozen or more technologies like this enter into the marketplace over the next couple of decades and see how they all fit in and work. We have no desire to just be, the king of the mountain on this one. We would love to see other people working on tools and technologies, because we got, a few billion people on the planet, and it's going to be hard to try and be, one entity creating all of these devices in one place. I think,
Sure.
Marketplace competition being what it is, we're going to need a lot of people in a lot of countries doing similar, slightly different versions and seeing how they work as experiments and seeing how they work in the marketplace so that we can transform the world into what we often call golden civilization, which is, getting us out of the sort of dark ages of invasive procedures and getting into a higher place of the most advanced technology that we can. That essentially we could live in a world where every single person who ever gets injured, ever gets sick, can be made well in a really, really short period of time. Mm-hmm. We can live in that same world where every single person as they age can be rejuvenated so that we can all live for centuries longer, which we think is a positive change for civilization. We don't think that's a bad thing. We think that when you have citizens whose personal experience level as human beings goes past a few decades and into a few centuries, well, we think you've got better citizens. I think you have better informed citizens. We think you have smarter citizens. We think you have citizens who know the tricks, and you have a better world when you have really, we think when we understand how long other species tend to live, and when we compare that to our own lifespans at the moment, we're a planet of children. Even people who live into, their 80s and 90s or reach 100 by many other standards in the galaxy is child age. It's not even grown-up age. Mm-hmm. So we're really still living in a world of children. And so we would love to see our ability in the intergalactic community to grow up and be a planet of adults by living centuries instead of decades. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we think it literally can change everything in the world by making the need for suffering and for people to get sick and die and for all of the losses that we experience as a society, labor costs lost and cost overruns for, the amount of money right now that it costs to treat all of the sick and injured people would be reduced, by 1/10, and then you'd have more functional, healthy, able-bodied people to do things in society and be functional in society. So, overall, we think it's a win-win-win-win concept, and that, once we convince everybody that it's win-win-win-win and there's no loss, nobody loses with this, everybody wins, then we think that that's how we think we're going to get it in, is by convincing everybody that there is no bad end to this. There's no bad side. It's all good, good, good.
Sure. Captain Randy, when you and I were talking prior to this meeting, I was like having my heart in my sleeves and thinking, my goodness, whatever happened to all those scientists and researchers and developers of free energy and alternative energy in the past who had been suppressed with their inventions and who had been given murder threats and things like that, death threats and all. And here you are, you're talking about releasing this technology to heal all human ills and diseases and whatnot. And you said that you had the clearance to do it. I'm really sure a lot of people have this big question mark. How did you manage that? How could you?
Yeah, that's the big advantage for me, is that when I was asked by my superiors, which are the command staff of United States Marine Corps Special Section, if I wanted to go public with my story, about 7 years ago. And at first I said, no, I have no desire to do that. I have no desire to bring my story to the public. I have no desire to be that guy, as it were. It did not seem like it was going to be the type of job that anybody would live long at. But I was made very clear to me by my superiors that I wasn't being asked to do this as an individual who would be at risk as an individual, but that I'm being asked to do this still as a member of a personnel and officer under rank and security clearance of United States Marine Corps Special Section, and that I would have the sanction and protection of my superiors. So that does give me an edge that a lot of people don't have, because I have some people who are looking after me and watching my back and making sure that I don't get assassinated or harassed too badly, because, you know, I have perhaps the most advanced military intelligence organization at my back to do that. So when I was asked to come forward, I was activated under something called the Independent or Emergency Field Commander Clauses of the United States Marine Corps Special Section, Special Code of Conduct, which, long story short, enables officers to act as independent field commanders or emergency field commanders to operate public relations, research and development, and criminal investigations in order to restore to simplify executive, legislative, and legal functional control of the law and of these programs in a way that they should be. When you have so many of these programs who are outside the normal legislative and executive control, it's a violation of constitutional law in this country. For those of you who are not that familiar with United States constitutional law, you're not supposed to have covert military programs and these programs that are outside the influence and jurisdiction of the executive branch and of the legislative branch. And we're supposed to have a legal procedure in which the public has a voice in this, as far as what they communicate back and forth to the executive and the legislative, and how the legislative and the executive make laws, implement laws, executive orders to sort of make all of that function. So we think that the notion that secrecy is less important than truth at the moment, because secrecy becomes more dangerous than truth, we think is a legal mandate to do exactly what we're doing. That we're not in violation of the law by doing this, that we're not in violation of the Espionage Act by doing this, that we're absolutely within our legal rights and boundaries to do so, because we are restoring lawful operations of branches and programs which have been outside of lawful operations for decades. And so we think that the key to getting all of this, you know, together under one roof and functioning is restoring that control. So we think this is just one step in that direction, and by sort of forcing some of these tools out of the iron-fisted grip of some of these programs is how we're going to do that. So, yeah. So it's fabulous to be given permission to do that. It's a unique position to be positioned to do that, and it means that, you know, people are going to have a lot harder time, you know, giving me crap or harassing me or shutting me down than they would someone else, because I got people watching my back.
So, in other words, Captain Randy, you're saying that because the pharmaceutical and medical cartel will have huge, big business losses, so they probably would have been briefed to lay off and let you carry on with what you do.
Well, if they're smart, they'll cooperate, because, again, we have business models that enable everyone to, you know, have a satisfaction model, so that, you know, no one has to be the big loser in this one, so that we can implement everything and that everyone can continue to get something out of it. And so we think that it's more than possible for these organizations to work with us, cooperate with us, and see the benefit of the future and do better. Essentially, their business models can do better with changes in them.
Sure.
And and we think, again, they'll just be better off cooperating with us than they will be fighting us, because if they want to fight with us, they'll just end up losing more money over time.
Okay, that makes sense. Penny, I can see that you probably are preparing to leave for your appointment. Perhaps you want to comment on this? Because you seem to be, in your interviews and all that, you seem to be having a quite a very, how shall I put it, skeptical feeling about these things being released to the laymen, to the masses on the planet. What say you, Penny?
The things that I have seen in space have not been released to the masses. The fact that Captain Cramer is having to do the research and development on this himself is showing me that even his agency is not wanting to simply release it. They want to distribute it through new research and development that we've already paid for. My particular agency, Nachtwaffen, had a lease with the Mantids, so I'm not sure we can legally release the regeneration tanks.
I don't understand why reinvent the wheel. Why couldn't we just take down from the SSP and just release the whatever technology that you've been using on Mars, on the moon, and your missions? Just release it. Why does Captain Randy Cramer have to go through all this, reinventing the wheel, getting the engineers together to rebuild?
You have never interacted with the bean counters and the spy. Once they have something in Black Ops, it takes an act of God to get it out.
Yeah, it's red tape. Yeah, it's legal red tape. Essentially, what it would take to get my superiors to be able to legally hand me a blueprint or a prototype could take 20 years, where, again, it could take me 10 years to have a functional prototype. So we've done the math and we've done the calculations, and the truth is that the amount of time that it would take them to legally be able to do that is probably going to be longer than it would take us to build a prototype from the ground up.
Okay.
So yeah,
Gotcha.
red tape. Really, it's about red tape.
Yeah. The co-chair was making some sign language. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So one thing that I wanted to point out is all the tech that they have in the secret space program originated somewhere. And all we have to do is go back to those origins, find out where they got it from, and then move forward from there.
Well, I know that the regeneration tanks that we used, that it's basically an acrylic cylinder that's 2 meters across and 3 meters tall. And it has metallic lids. It's one of those chambers where you don't feel any sensation inside because the gel you're in. And I know that the gel is actually made from black goo that has had its sentience removed.
Oh.
So you're dealing with a computerized
AI
gel that is capable of doing the healing itself. And there's a computer attached that programs the gel. Now, that's the basics. Now, implementing that is a really big deal. And they've already done it, and they're leasing it to us, or at least to the German fleet. But it will heal anything. An experienced operator can even improve your personal genetics through the tech. It's just a matter of knowing how to do it. But at the same time, I'm sitting here on Earth. I don't have the quantum computers that they had there. I don't have the ability to produce that size of a tank, and I certainly don't have access to that much black goo to desensitize.
Must be very frustrating.
You just told me why we don't use that technology, because it involves reprogramming black goo. We would never use a technology that involves that stuff. We don't trust it at all as a technology. So I can tell you right now why we would never use that technology. But
are we talking about the same black goo that originates in the Himalayas?
It's the same black goo that is in the Falkland Islands that the war there was over.
Oh. God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. With that being said, I'd like to share one screen, and that's out of the provisional pack.
Please.
So let me do that. Okay. Are you getting this one?
Yep.
Okay. So, right. That's figure 29.
Again, it's small. I wish you can zoom in.
I wish I could, but it just won't zoom in.
Oh, that's interesting.
Isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that is absolutely fascinating. Okay. Interesting.
All right, Captain Randy Cramer, you said you've got your team and you are producing the prototype right now.
Well,
Surely
no,
you need more scientists.
I have a chief engineer,
Mm-hmm.
and we would love to hire some more engineers to work on it. And
Sure.
when the time comes that we have the funding
Mm-hmm.
that we need to do that, which is just a certain number of millions of dollars to get off the ground. So it's a good chunk, and we've certainly had conversations with funders about that.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, the problem is that most of the people that have wanted to help with funding want way more in return than we're willing to give them. So there are certain people who wanted to help participate, but they want things. They want, patent control or, certain,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, or certain, a control of the company, as it were, and we don't have no intention of letting anybody do that. So we'll be patient.
That's why you need to do more
and wait
interviews
for the
so the
funding to
people
arrive
out
from the
there
system.
can hear what you're doing and contribute in a philanthropical way. Yeah, I mean, if you need more in your team to develop faster and quicker, we have it all here in physics. I mean, we can send you some scientists if you want. And to start off with, Dr. Eliza Donovan.
I'm volunteering.
Well, and while I appreciate that, we don't want anybody to volunteer. I think that our team has to be paid engineers. They have to have some job security.
Some kind of payment. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, we don't want someone to spend a couple hours a week, that they can volunteer. We want people to spend their 40 to 60 hours a week of hard labor, developing and working around the clock to sort of get this up.
Oh, I would love to do that.
I've made it very clear that we won't even start the process until I can afford to pay, my teams of engineers for a lengthy enough amount of time to get the job. There's no way that I'm going to start a project, get 3 years in, and be like, oh, sorry, we're running out of money. We can't, keep up the project. And so that's why we have this sort of threshold startup cost.
Right. I'm just calling out to our listeners. Please play back this video and listen to what Captain Randy is saying about replicating this holographic medbed. Yeah. So you could pass it forward if you got some extras. He's looking for 20 million to. Am I correct, Captain Randy?
Yeah, that's a startup.
Yeah,
that's our startup. We have to build hardware lab, software lab, manufacturing lab, and get 2 teams of engineers, a software team and a hardware team. And that's about a $20 million startup.
How far have you got to now?
No, let's call it effectively nowhere. So, we're still at step 1 with that. So
okay.
we've got some nickel and dimes that have been, wonderful for people to help out with, but the big donors are still holding on to their checkbooks. So,
folks, share this video. Far and wide, we're looking for the 20 million to get this replicated.
Yeah, another thing I'd like to mention is that usually engineering projects move forward in direct proportion to how much money is involved and how much time is involved. So the problem is that if you're just doing it on a nickel and dime, it's going to take forever.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Once we have enough funding to get some laboratories built and some engineers working on it, I'm sure that, more funding will show up. That's just how it is, right? When you don't need it is when more of it shows up. When you really need it is when you're having the hardest time, making it happen. So we understand that. All right, we'll get there.
Oh, I don't know if Penny has already left for her dental appointment.
Yeah, I think
she has. Yeah,
I think she has.
Yeah. Oh, she has input so much information as well. Bless her heart. It's really wonderful. Yeah. Okay, Coach A, do you want to hand it over to the floor for the Q&A?
Sure. I'd like to just get some Q&A in, and I might be chiming in with a couple things if I can think of anything. So there we go. Anybody have any questions?
Fres, you're quiet.
I'm quiet. My whole series of questions was a different line. The only thing that I've got left in it is we take a look at the holographic medical bed that you're talking about and the software and stuff. You're basically looking at something that's probably rudimentary in your MRI tables, which is the cross-sectional dissection of the whatever's inside the device. And then your holographic medical bed would probably be in the line of being the transmitter side of it with the corrections. Is that correct, Randy?
Basically, yeah. Again, I don't want to talk too much about proprietary issues and proprietary details, but you're on the right track there. Yeah, you're on the right track.
When I was doing my research on you and going through the other stuff that you've covered in very big detail across the spectrum and stuff, the one thing in line with this table, and we take a look at how the dark state is handling people and the disappearance of people into either black ops or into these different programs. We see intergalactical type of ramifications and terrestrial. And on the terrestrial, we see everything from harvesting of tissue to serums and that type of stuff, clear into things like sex trafficking and other nefarious things. If this table was in production and working, in many ways, it would decrease the demand for these parts and chemicals and stuff and extractions. But on the other side, you may be looking at what would be the living hell, which is similar to what you talked about with other under interviews, which is this regeneration from basically being decapitated and brought back to life. So I have this two sides at once that's kind of a dilemma in the ethics of implementation. Do you want to elaborate a little bit?
I'm happy to. So what we understand are that many of these rogue programs have sort of done things, and this is a fuzzy term to use, quote unquote, because they have to, which doesn't really mean that they have to, but it means that necessity is what has driven a lot of these things. So a lot of these unethical, what we consider to be criminal activities by these programs in, organ trafficking, human resource trafficking, sex trafficking, etc., is essentially a violation of a number of treaties that we have signed against slave labor and the use of human beings as slaves or as raw materials. So we're at this point where those programs will be forced to stop their activities at some point, or we're going to lose contracts. And when I say lose contracts, I mean lose trade agreement contracts, which are not worth millions of dollars a year, not worth billions of dollars a year, not worth trillions of dollars a year, but in some cases worth quadrillions and quintillions of dollars a year. Now, anyone wants to sit down and write out how many zeros that is. That's a quadrillion is 1,000 trillion, and a quintillion is 1,000 quadrillions. And there's these massive amounts of money that are flowing back and forth in these trade agreements. And let me assure you that the financial forcing is really what's going to change a lot of this, is because some of those programs are trying to do what they're doing and make the money that they can make of and keep getting away with what they're getting away with for the amount of time that they have, which is not long. Or they're going to be forced to stop some of these things, or we're going to lose, again, treaty agreements and trade agreements that will cost us massive amounts of money. So the bottom line, the cold calculation, fortunately or unfortunately, for these entities is that they're going to end up ceasing a lot of that activity, not because they have all of a sudden got moral and ethical backbones, but because it's going to be legally required and it's going to be financially necessary for them. So we think that our greatest advantage there is knowing that we're moving towards something that will be functional, profitable, shore up the bottom layer of civilization, and not be in violation of the law as far as these treaty agreements and trade agreements are concerned. So the ethical dilemma there is one that will resolve itself based on, treaties, so that the people who are doing a lot of those unethical activities at the moment are just going to have to stop, or they're going to lose more money than they make. And so the cold calculation for those entities is not that they're going to do it because it's the goodness in their heart, but they're going to do it because their bottom line will be affected and their wallets will be affected. And essentially, we're okay with that. We're okay with it being a financial motivator for them because it gets the job done, so we're fine. If they're financially motivated to change their ways, then great. If that's the way that we have to get them motivated. But luckily, we're moving towards that because they're going to be forced to change based on those treaties and trade agreements. Does that answer your question?
Yes, there was probably one of the big eye-openers for this was at the end of the Obama administration, when he basically said those corporations that are operating off-planet are not having to follow territorial or United States law or the planet Earth laws. And so that's where I'm saying there's this schism between the ethics of what we're looking at in the line of healing and the unethical use of the same technology.
Right. And that's the problem that we've been having for decades, is trying to resolve the rogue programs who, again, are doing things, quote unquote, because they have to, but again, isn't really because they have to. But the sort of necessity and need-based justifications that they have versus what we understand is a ethical, legal, moral way of doing things that is also really, the bottom line, is more profitable. And so we think that some of what we're really just needing to continue to convince these people of is the business model works better for them to do it our way. And while they're used to cutting corners and doing things the way that they want, that they'll actually do better, and they'll actually make more profits if they do it the other way. So we think that's how we're going to win the argument, is not by trying to, stamp our fists on the table and say, you have to do this with a greater sense of moral and ethical fortitude, when the people who are making those decisions in some cases are sociopaths who have no ethical and moral fortitude. But if, we can convince those people that their bottom line is at risk and they're going to change their ways in order to affect their bottom line, then so be that.
Very good. Thank you. And I'll turn the floor back over to the host. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Exactly. Thank you. Namaskar, Captain.
Hi. Tricia, are you going to say something? You're going to ask a question? Because we have to close the first session, then we can go to the second session and have a second session forum with Captain Randy Cramer. All of us will have a chance to chip in and ask more questions in the second session. How's that? But Tricia, just continue what you want to say. Go on, Tricia. Tricia? Okay, unmute you. I've unmuted you now. Tricia, we've lost you. Okay, so let's go to the second session then, okay? Co-chair, do you want to say something before we close this first session and we go to the second?
Oh, sure. I had another question that came up, and that would be, would you be willing to have an interview and a roundtable Q&A with other whistleblowers such as Good, Cobra, David Wilcott, Sheldon Idle, etc.?
Oh, I'd be happy to. I'll tell you, though, right now that Corey and David probably won't be a part of that. Corey has been polite enough to say that his superiors are not wishing that he and I speak at this moment. But David hates my guts for whatever reason and refuses to speak to me. So I've tried to communicate to him through third-party sources so we can work that out as grown-up adults. But he doesn't want to talk to me. So I'm more than willing to. But if you want to ask David or Corey, then it probably won't happen.
But we can understand why. Fred and I had been talking about this because Richard Dolan has been doing quite a number of interviews about this matter, about Corey patenting the terminologies of the SSP. So no one is supposed to utter those words or use those words. I don't know if his lawyer is retracting those because it's.
I've heard that they're retracting it, which is a smart idea because it was a really bad idea in the first place to try and
Yeah.
trademark a term that is a public domain term and not something that's part of somebody's private presentation or personal presentation or product that they own or have some kind of proprietary agreement over. No, I've heard that they're backing off of that. I hope so. It's a bad idea. I mean, let's just be honest. It's a dick move. It's a dick move to try and trademark or patent something that is trying to exclude people from participating in the conversation. And I'll say this without trying to be too rude about it. I think that anybody who thinks that they're going to gain in this community through excluding other people who have incredibly valuable information to add to the conversation, those people are going to find out that excluding people is going to blow up in their face and is not going to serve them long term. So I would just encourage everybody, if they really truly mean what they say about being in their highest spiritual place, that is a more inclusive and a less exclusive place. Because if you're excluding people, you're not in your highest spiritual place at all.
Yep, that's so right.
Yep.
Right. So I know that the SSP community, the super soldiers aren't too happy with Corey, and it actually, went on for a while, and then this happened. So now we understand why, and certainly we can understand why you won't be able to have a roundtable conference with them. Yeah.
Again, I'm happy to be there, but if getting them to show up might be the tricky part. But I'm happy to be anywhere and have any conversation with anybody at any time.
Thank you. All right. So shall we then adjourn to the second session, because we don't want to have too long a video, and
let's do that.
It will be a little bit difficult to process as well. Right. So there being no other business here on this first session, we will now adjourn to the second session of the 58th Physics meeting today, the 7th of November, 2018. Thank you.